It says 23 seconds. Okay, never mind. Good to see everybody, and good to have you all here today. And just glad that this microphone is working absolutely wonderfully. Hope all is well. And we got back home from vacation just in time to go on the mission trip today. So we're going to be back out. Huh? Well, it is a great fear. You know, the great fear of a pastor is that you go away and everybody realizes, oh, we don't really need him. No, this one. Stu is great. I do appreciate him so much, and funny text we got later, but it's not for here to discuss. But we have lunch together, and we're so glad that we have a connection with someone who will fill in and take care of things, and while you're gone, and I don't. He and I have spent enough time together. I go, I don't really worry. It really is strange. I digress, but don't I always? When we were in Buellville, and I really regret this now, but we had worked so hard through divinity school and everything. My first 3 years there, I never took a Sunday off. We would do vacation from like Monday to Fridays. And the sad thing was there were a lot of people who owned beach houses because you're 55 minutes away from Topsail. I know that. And they would just say, hey, go take the house, go take the house. And every single time, minus one, every single time we were there, right when we were about to go, someone would die. And so we would go, oh, we can't, I don't get to go or something. But we never took a Sunday there, and so I kind of regret that now, but we had worked so hard to get there, I just like, okay, I want, and it's hard to find people to fill in for you, and it's hard to find people that you trust with, you're my congregation, and I'm like really, if y'all haven't noticed, protective, possessive, whatever, about things. And so with Stu, I feel so comfortable that I'm like, he's going to go and do a good job, but he's also retired, so he's like, yeah, I'm going to do this, and everything's good. And he's happy, and he wants to be here and wants to help. And so I appreciate that so much from him. All right. Okay, let's get back to Scripture. I've been away for 2 weeks. We're actually gonna do John this week and next week. Even though we're gone for the mission trip, I will be back next week. And to think about this, these next couple passages, and this one I've done plenty of times, but next week, the part that this bleeds into, I've never preached before. And one more time, I'm like, oh, I'm going to give this a shot. I don't know why. What? Yeah, you're the guinea pigs. Yeah, 29 years in, and here we are. And yeah, we're coming up on my 29th year of ordination to July the 9th. Jerry Garcia's last concert with the Grateful Dead. Same day. Soldier Field, Chicago. It was rated as a mediocre concert. He checked himself into rehab after that, and soon after he was no more. They were meandering. Okay, but this week we think back to Jesus and the things that he was about. And this is a great story. This is kind of a two-section passage, and then it just goes off the rails next week and really changes direction. But listen to the first part and the second part, really, it's about authority, Jesus' authority in the first part, and then it kind of bleeds over into his authority in a different kind of way. And the question, keep in mind, all throughout Mark's gospel, that he keeps throwing out there, all these people keep going, who is this guy? Who is this guy? Now, see, we've read the story, so we know the punchline. But Mark's gospel is, Who is this guy that can calm the storm? Who is this guy that can cast out demons? Who is this guy who can heal sick people? Who is this guy who preaches like this? Because we know his parents. We know who his parents are. We know who this guy is. And he ain't much of a much, you know. And yet he preaches with authority. So who is this guy? And all along, you're wanting to go, hey, he's the Messiah. He's the Messiah. Until you get to the very last chapter when the Roman centurion says, truly, this man was the Son of God. And that's the answer to the question all the way through. And they don't get to answer the question. This outsider gets to answer the question, which is Mark's kind of, in my opinion, his sense of humor. It's kind of his punchline. But all throughout, they're going, authority. Whose authority is this? Why do you get to say this? Why do you get to do this? Whose authority is this? And so, here we go. Mark chapter 6, 1 through 13. And again, to think about where this goes to next week, and I know some of you, if Phil's already read the front and behind it to even know. I know he has. So, but you go, whoa, this story really takes a real turn. But here you go. He, being Jesus, left the place and came to his hometown, and his disciples followed him. On the Sabbath, he began to teach in the synagogue, and many heard him, were astounded, and they said, where did this man get all this? What is this wisdom that has been given to him? What deeds of power are being done by his hands? Is not this the carpenter, the son of Mary, and brother of James and Joseph and Judas and Simon? And are not his sisters here with us? And they took offense at him. And then Jesus said to them, prophets are not without honor except in their hometown and among their own kin and in their own house. And he could do no deed of power there except that he laid his hands on a few sick people and cured them. And he was amazed at their unbelief. Then he went about among the villages teaching, and he called the 12 and began to send them out 2 by 2. And he gave them authority over the unclean spirits. And he ordered them to take nothing for their journey except the staff, no bread, no bag, no money in their belts, but to wear sandals and not to put on 2 tunics. He said to them, wherever you enter a house, stay there until you leave the place. If any place will not welcome you and they refuse to hear you, as you leave, shake off the dust that is on your feet as a testimony against them. So they went out and proclaimed that all should repent. And they cast out many demons and anointed with oil many who were sick and cured them. Familiar? Sort of, kind of, maybe. Yeah, I love people go, yeah, no, not really. I mean, it's just, again, I go, oh yeah, this is a common story. It's come up in the lectionary every, it's in Matthew, it's in Mark, it's in Luke. Again, John, out on his own. But the others have a similar story where Jesus comes home and not exactly seen as, the superstar. So, and it's kind of a 2-part story. So, what'd you hear there? What jumps out?
I can understand why people didn't know he was the Son of God. There'd never ever been a Son of God. Why would you think he could do that?
Yeah. And especially this guy, right? Carpenter's son. Yeah. Yeah. Yep, there you go. Yeah, we knew this guy. Yeah. Yeah, that's yeah, the danger of coming back home, actually, of being, you can't be that somebody knows you and remember, hey, remember when we, oh yeah, I did. He was a jerk, it's, yeah. And you get to hear all those things. My favorite thing, though, this is I can't believe I'm saying it, but it's the one that, okay, we've been here over 8 years now, and the one of the people who I grew up with who are coming to hear me preach. Like, yeah, we need to come hear you. 8 years, not one Sunday yet. So when people say that, I'm just like, oh yeah, great, sure, you're not coming. Of course you're not coming. So that's kind of funny. But other than that, so here he is. He's back home, and these people are like, and again, remember, except for the story when he was 12. And he kind of breaks off from his parents, and he goes to the and they're like, "What the heck you been, man? What you doing, running away from home like that?" That's the only story we have of Jesus as a kid. That's it. And we have no idea how that rolled. So, but they're totally unimpressed with him, or they're stunned. Where'd he get all this? We know this guy. I had him in English, I sat near him, or in Greek, or he would have been an apprentice, of some sort. So if he did, they weren't impressed, or they chose. Oh yeah, oh, love that. Yeah, that's true. That. And it is funny, working on COM all these years, it is incredible how people want to call a pastor from somewhere else. Actually, to the committee that came here, one of the first 2 questions I asked is, are you even seriously considering me because I'm from here? And they looked at me like I was nuts. I was like, churches don't. And it's kind of crazy. Had a church in this state once call a kid from California. And they had an associate who had been there for 25 years. So this new kid who's coming in to be the head of staff and the associate had been there 20-something years. It did not go well. He was from California, too. And it's a cultural difference. There are cultures. Yeah. And it's yeah. No, you can't be an associate. You can't go into that position. No, you can't do that. No. Because I'll explain later. Whole different discussion. I'll talk about that later. But again, people tend to want to call somebody from somebody else. An expert is somebody who's more than 50 miles away. It doesn't. But that's just the way we think. As opposed to somebody who goes, boy, if he comes in or she comes in, please, that they actually know the area. They know how it works. They know the culture. But we don't do that. Yeah. No, we got to call somebody from Arizona, and it may not, or it may go well. I'm not saying it won't, but we have that mentality. And so maybe they choose not to go, ooh, he's really good. They are stunned. Go ahead. In Mark's gospel, there is this sense that faith is contained in that. It does come down to the faith that people have. Now, John, he ain't like that. But Mark's gospel really does seem to have this sense of there has to be some sense of faith on the person's part.
What I found interesting about that was it said he did no deed of power there except that he laid his hands on each sick people and cured them. And I'm like, if that's not power, I don't know what is.
Yeah, but I think that the ultimate intent here is to go, Yeah, he could do stuff because he's who he was, but not a lot of stuff. Yeah. Yeah. Which is an interesting aspect of Mark's presentation of the faith, because there is some sense placed on the belief of the person, which kind of does bump up against the Jesus of John, that it doesn't really depend on your faith. Or even the person who is paralyzed in the earlier part of Mark's Gospel in chapter 4, I think. They cut the hole in the person's roof, which just really isn't cool. But they tear a hole in somebody else's roof and drop this guy down. And it was their faith that made him. You know, somebody has to have faith in this, which can be dangerous, because when we say, "Oh, you're not healed because you didn't have the faith," that's the part about Mark. I love Mark's Gospel; it's my favorite. But that's the part about it that always gives me pause. That I would ever hate to be somebody to go, "Well, I guess I just didn't have enough faith for this to happen." And go, "Whoa, that's putting a lot on you." But here there is a sense that their disbelief in him was just, yeah. Yeah, it's more on him, like, yeah, I'm not doing this because y'all don't. Right. Interesting way in which they take that, the take on that. Yeah, yeah, I don't know if it's the first, but it's definitely where um, they are brought out. And he's the oldest. So that's another aspect of the discussion, is if... Well, yeah. Nobody. That's a great. There are several places, even like this one, like is not, you know, when they're talking about his authority, they go, "We know his dad," and you want to say, "No, actually you don't." I mean, yeah, I mean, you know, that yeah, that's right. I mean, you know, but that is that. Yeah. Yeah. I think this is another place where Mark goes way out of his way to make sure that we understand that this part about Jesus, that we work so hard in our confessional statements to point out, fully God, fully human. That there is a real sense of humanity here in Jesus, where John's Gospel well, yeah, I know, and people do kind of, we all kind of gloss over those things, don't we, when we want to? I mean, in Scripture, or we have our, you get far enough away that when we talk in wonderful ways about Benjamin Franklin, and he was kind of a rounder, but there's been enough time. As opposed to politicians that are current, that we go, you know. Yeah. So it is funny how some of those things about human experience that people were okay with. Or they didn't know. Okay, I'm sorry. One behind you. Let's get this. Sorry. I haven't gone 2 weeks, and I forgot. I don't have any batteries with me. I've been on vacation. I don't carry batteries. I don't know.
Just like these guys in this story where Jesus says, don't carry anything with you. I didn't carry them. I don't carry them with me. I took it to heart. Okay. Let us move on. So there is this aspect too of this, that Mark is really pointing out Jesus' humanity here. And I think that's something that we can tend to lean much more towards John's gospel, where he is really, really, really amazingly holy other. And sometimes we want to forget this other part about Jesus, about his humanity. And Mark tries to keep us in balance. That's what I do love about the two different gospels, or the four different, but that they focus on those things. What else?
Why did he tell them not to take anything?
Oh, wow. Why did he tell them? So this is where the story flips. So you have this part about Jesus' authority from the people that are there. They're like, where'd he get all this? He's kind of amazing for his upbringing. He really ain't much of him, but here he is. He's pretty spectacular. I mean, he's got this thing. And then all of a sudden he turns around and boom, okay, y'all, you disciples, 2 by 2, go out and go and continue. He gives them the authority to go forward and go, but he tells them not to take anything. Mm-hmm. It much more of a welcoming of the hospitality of the stranger in their culture, more so than ours.
Yeah, you wouldn't turn somebody away from your door.
Yeah, we're not really into that anymore. But yeah, that that's right. Yeah, that's right. We don't even answer the door when we do know who it's. You look at they look like Jehovah's Witnesses to me. I'm not answering. But yeah, why would he tell them? There are several reasons that could be. In that day, they are dealing with traveling evangelist type people, and there's this collection of ideas that we call the Decalogue. Which was supposed to be by the apostles way back when, and the disciples that they put together. And one of the aspects is about these traveling preachers, that if they stay more than 3 days, they're false prophets. So they put these kind of things together. And some of the others were, you're really not in this to make money. And so we're trying to, and you just go and you go the first place that keeps you, because then if you're there, and then if somebody else who has more, they're more well off or whatever, and they go, hey, will you come stay with us? Then you leave this other person. That was taboo in that day. You just don't do that. Don't, because then that makes it look like you're trying to get some, and because also we know that when favors are rendered, there are expectations, in return. That's just the way it goes. And so that one part of it, he's trying to avoid all outward appearance of being on the take of any certain way as a minister, or a person who's proclaiming, who's been sent with a purpose. And this is the word that's used here. He says he sends them, and there's a Greek word that they're sent, you just go, or that you're sent with a purpose. And he sends them with a purpose. The other one is there's a great sense of trust in God here. I mean, you're supposed to trust that they have to, there is a sense of, you get a staff, and to walk. It wasn't, you don't even take 2 tunics, which I always get. Okay, that's. It was just, you just go, come on now. I mean, one of you get spaghetti on it. I don't know, and you're, why I never eat spaghetti in public. But it's a rule. But you know, I was just like, that just seems a little much, right? But Jesus is really trying to get them this notion of you're dependent on me. There's also another aspect of it too, and I don't want to go too much into it because this is really where the sermon's at. But this notion of if what happens for us when we go on vacation and we take a lot of our stuff with us. We have to keep, well, you never use it. There you go. Stop there, because I don't want to go into the sermon. We have to keep, you're weighted down. Yeah, that's the name of the sermon, right? But thanks a lot. But there were so many fights we had in the beginning of our marriage when we'd go on vacation because we'd pack way too much stuff. And then this is only for 3 days. And the car would be packed full, and you're just like, oh my gosh, you got to keep up with all this stuff. And then isn't it too that, even if you go on vacation, and we have a safe in the closet that you're taking stuff with it that you have to be so concerned with that you have to put it in there. And while you're out, and you're, oh my God, I'm worried about this. And Jesus is going, I don't want you worried about anything about yourself while you're out there proclaiming the gospel. This is really about taking the message out. And the less you have to worry about, the better off we are. And that's kind of a part of it too. Trust in God. Don't be weighed down. Go share the gospel. And that's a pretty important part of this, too. Also, another aspect of this, right? And again, go into the Drake and reading Acts all that time with him. I'm so over the top on this part about the gospel. They share the gospel, and it works. Now, when these disciples come back, they're amazed at some of the great things they did. But Jesus tells them right here, too. What's he tell them? Hey, somebody doesn't accept you, shake the dust off, which is a condemnation, which is basically a curse on them. It was not political, but when George W. Bush was one of the guys took a shoe off and threw it at him. And he's just like, and we go, okay, that's weird. But it's not. It's sad, that happens to a president. That's that kind of it's this dust shaking thing. It's really bad. In our sports, when the person when they get traded or whatever, and then they go out and stomp on the logo in center field, the Celtics never forgave Kyrie for doing that. They were booing him like crazy the other night, and it's like, don't step on the logo. And this is the same kind of thing. You reject him, and Jesus tells him, hey, you're shaking the dust. This is, a pox on you. But it's also another thing. It's not everybody's going to listen. Not everybody is going to listen. But that doesn't negate what they're called to do. And that they keep going. It's about keep going. And that even though you might be in God's plan, sharing the gospel, being faithful, not every single thing is going to work. Yeah. 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 That there are other people. These aren't going to listen, but there are other people who will. And I think that's probably one of the most important things for congregations, for us today to hear in this story, is that people, we tried that 15 years ago and it didn't work. Well, I don't know. If that's, or we've been doing this years. We need to keep doing this. Well, if it's dying, maybe it's time to move on. Well, my granddad did this. Well, good for him, but but that maybe it's a different, or that we hope this works, or maybe this wasn't what we were supposed to do because it didn't work, or maybe we're just called to be faithful, and we can't be afraid to fail. Yes, that's true. Right. Yeah. Right. That's true. Yeah. That's that you do need new life always to say, what is it that what is it that drew you here, but also what is it that we could do differently that could be helpful. And yeah, that we do tend to become inward really fast. But Jesus is sending them out to be faithful and as an extension of his gospel to go forward. So the thing to ask ourselves is what is it that weighs us down? What is it that we hold on to in our own lives and as a congregation? And the other part of that too is to remember, I think that's really, 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 really important here, is that it's Jesus' authority that sends them. It's not their own charisma. It's not their own, ooh, wow, he, it's because of this guy, or gal, that things. But it's the authority of Jesus that he's given to us to go and do these things. One of the things we did, we watched. We do Hulu stuff, and we watch I love documentaries, and we did the Jonestown one. It was awful, but that's one of those things where here's this person who really is like, this is because of me that this is happening. God's blessing me, and y'all are getting everything through me, and that's why it's me, and that's this passage is like, no, actually it's not. It's not you at all. So keep going. Yeah. Let's think about those things, and let's pray. Gracious God, we give thanks for your love and your mercy, that you have sent us out with a purpose here, and you have called us to be faithful and not be weighed down by our own things, to share your good news that others might receive the gospel and that we might receive it ourselves.